The first time it happened, it just looked like really good nursing. Southmead Hospital's emergency department had its own internal weather system. The relentless glare of fluorescent lights, the smell of wet coats steaming the stuttering, beep of monitors, and the constant roaring background noise of people waiting for their turn to be urgent. A code gray call crackled over the radio. A violent patient in an acute bay, staff at risk. Nurse Narcotic arrived to a scene that didn't feel heroic, just cramped and chaotic. A man was thrashing against restraints, his eyes feral with fear. A junior doctor was speaking too fast. The trolley rattled like it wanted to escape. Sedation was supposed to be a careful process. But the automated dispensing cabinet was flashing an error, and the patient's monitor was throwing alarms that didn't match his pulse. The multiverse fracture sat in that room like a thin, electric smell just before a lightning strike. Nurse Narcotic met the man's gaze and just pushed. She pushed calm into him the way you push a door shut. Instantly, his body loosened, his breath slowed. The sound in the bay softened, as if the air itself had thickened. The junior doctor stared, confused, at the drug chart and the cabinet log, which both showed no medication had been given. But the healthcare assistant just whispered thanks, because gratitude was so much easier than asking for an explanation. And the shift just carried on. Bristol on a weekend night always delivered chaos. Fights, falls, overdoses, panic attacks. So Nurse Narcotic kept using the power, because it worked. And because everyone around her wanted it to work. A screaming teenager in withdrawal stopped shaking. A man sobbing in the corridor suddenly went quiet, staring at the ceiling in blank peace. Calm spread like a miracle, and soon, miracles became expected. The first real moral compromise came in the staff room. A colleague, hands trembling over a cold cup of tea, confessed to having nightmares, no capacity left. So Nurse Narcotic leaned in and offered the feeling of relief, without a tablet, without a paper trail. The colleague's shoulders dropped in gratitude. And then they asked for it again the next shift, and the next. It became a secret service, a new kind of currency in an exhausted system traded for favors and silence. Then, a man in the waiting area tested the limits. He was drunk, loud, filming staff on his phone, calling them names. When security tried to escort him out, he swung at a guard. Watching this, Nurse Narcotic made a choice. She didn't give him calm. She gave him the opposite. A sick, crawling terror that felt like sudden chemical emptiness. The man's bravado collapsed. He slid down the wall, begging for help, not knowing why his own body had turned on him. The corridor went quiet. But that quiet had a cost. Soon, unexpected sedation became a rumor. Pharmacy noticed the numbers didn't add up. CCTV footage from that night showed a 10-second glitch right at the moment the man collapsed. Then, an incident review was called. A new name was on the invite list. Crownwell Applied Systems there for operational resilience support. Crownwell arrived looking like consultants pretending to be carers. They used calm voices and corporate language, talking about behavioral stabilization events and non-standard neurological compliance. They made an offer, a private contract, protection from investigation, a huge salary. They would turn her power into a targeted tool. The subtext was clear, a capability worth owning. She refused. So Crownwell slid a draft audit report across the table, detailing every discrepancy, every missing signature, every unexplained patient outcome. It was enough to end her career. Her response wasn't a speech. It was a demonstration. She focused on the Crownwell representative, pushing a heavy, blissful fog into his nervous system. His head dipped, his speech slurred. But he didn't collapse. Another Crownwell employee raised a small device that flashed a dull light. The representative's breathing steadied. He fought it off. They had prepared. They called it resistance training. That night, back on the ward, a patient screamed. Every head turned to Nurse Narcotic, their faces hungry for another miracle. A miracle that had become standard practice. Standard practice that had become a liability. She stood under the flickering corridor lights and understood the final horrifying truth. Calm could be inflicted. Relief could be weaponized. A shortcut had become a battle for control. An NHS audit email sits open on a screen right next to a Cromwell contract titled Behavioral Stabilization Deployment. To see what happens next, watch the next episode. Like this video and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing.